How you doing? I'm Micah.
I'm Diana.
And we have a few things to discuss.
So today we are taking it back to the beginning of Hitch Fit and just
Way back in time.
We're going back.
Yeah.
And just to give people a little bit of insight, you know, some people watching this, they may know who we are and a little bit about us, and there's a lot of people that may be like, who are these people? It's probably a lot of people that are like, who are these people? So I thought today we could just share a little bit about Hitch Fit, and which is our business. For those of you who don't know, it's a business we started back in 2009, and kind of where it came from, like the heart of Hitch Fit and why we wanted to do things the way that we did, and kind of how things have unfolded over the last 16 plus years now.
Yeah. So Hitch Fit is an online personal training company. We also have a brick and mortar gym, but to go way back. So this is MySpace days again. We're going back to MySpace. Before social media marketing had really kind of taken off, but I was really inspired by transformation. Transformation was huge. I think the first time I ever saw transformation done properly was through a guy named Bill Phillips at EAS.
Yeah.
And he did Body for Life. And I remember just seeing these before and after pictures, and I was blown away. I was like, what in the world? What are these people doing? And so I had gone through my own transformation of going from where I was at, you know, mentally and physically, to this better version of myself. And then, you know, I started being like, well, I want to help people do like what I see in those pictures.
Yeah.
And, you know, unfortunately in the personal training world, we're not really taught that. You're taught to proper form and, you know, the kinesiology of things and all the stuff that comes with personal training. But I was obsessed with seeing people like really ridiculously transform their bodies.
Yeah.
And seeing the impact in that. And so I started kind of marketing at that and using MySpace at this time to build it into something and doing these little before and after pictures. And I think one of my very first before and after picture was maybe like 2004 or something, maybe even before that, maybe 2002, because I became a trainer in 2001. And so, yeah, I mean, just a wild ride. And then being able to use the power of social media with MySpace to then showcase these things. And then how the story really came was, it was 2006, and this girl from Canada reached out. Mm-hmm. And she was like, man, I love what you're doing with the people in Kansas City, but how could I work with you? And it was like a light bulb. I mean, it was bright as the sign back here. It was like a light bulb that was like, well, why couldn't I just make you a plan? And then if you follow it and get results, then we could do this like online. Mm-hmm. But at the time, you couldn't go on Google and like find it. There was no like online, how to be an online personal trainer or any of that. There wasn't. No. So it was about, you know, teaching all the viewers that, hey, this was possible to not do this in person and get these sorts of results. And long story short, that's kind of how Hitch Fit became. My nickname on MySpace was Hitch, and it was kind of the Hitch of fitness. If you've ever seen the movie Hitch, and he gave this belief into these guys that they could find, you know, and be with essentially they're like their soulmates, as they looked at him as. And for me, I was kind of the Hitch of fitness that was able to like put belief in these guys and these women to be more than they were. So that's kind of the nutshell of it.
Yeah, that was like where it started. And then when I'll give a little backstory of where I came from before I met you, and because when I met you, the stuff with that first client had already happened, and you were in the process of creating Hitch Fit. And when I kind of stepped into the picture, I was like, you needed a book. So I wrote the book. Yeah. and then I was going to come in and kind of be, I was in alignment with that vision. And so I was coming in to be like the female piece of Hitch Fit. But prior to that, this may actually be something, I don't really know if I've shared these stories very much, but when I lived in Texas before I met you, so before I met Micah, I was living in San Antonio. we met through the fitness industry, and then I moved to Kansas City. But when I had gone through my 50-pound weight loss transformation journey, I ended up winning my first fitness competition. And then I was like, this is it. Like, I'm taking over. I'm famous and I'm taking over the fitness industry. I knew nothing about business or running a business, starting a business, but I was a big dreamer, and I was always very, I've always been very like, I'm jumping in and I'm going to try this. So when I lived in Texas in 2000, I competed for my first time in 2005 and won. And then I was like, I'm taking over. And I started a business with a guy in San Antonio called D to be fit.
Ooh, watch
Destined
out.
to be fit. I don't even know if I really shared this story with people. And my vision, because I'd gone through my own transformation journey, I had that 50-pound loss. I wanted people to experience what I was feeling. Yeah. I wanted them to like have that feeling of being able to live healthy. And I understood what it felt like to be on one side and then the other. And I went all in, and this was like, so it was before social media. It was literally like I had no guidance whatsoever. And somehow I had put something out. I don't even remember how I put it out there, but this company got a hold of me and was like, you would be perfect for an infomercial. And what the whole vision for Destined to be Fit was, we're going to create a DVD, like a hard copy DVD, and I'm going to buy a whole bunch of resistance bands, and then I'm going to create an online community, and so people are going to sign up, and I'm going to ship them a DVD and a resistance band, and then they're going to be able to communicate with me through this little portal on the D2B Fit website that we've created, and then I'm going to be able to help them with nutrition and help them go through transformation. So I was trying to, it was kind of my version of trying to figure out how to do online training. And we had a whole DVD produced. When I met you, I had thousands and thousands of DVDs that I ended up having to figure out what to do with.
We sold them at garage sales. We gave them away.
Oh, and I still have some. And it's really funny because it's a story that I don't talk about. I don't share.
I mean, you just chose the wrong guy.
I did. And oh my goodness.
When you chose the right guy.
Okay. No, you know what? It was the journey that I had to go on.
Yeah, it is.
And the infomercial company flew to, I think it was a scam, honestly. I think they were a bunch of scammers. But we flew to Florida, and I borrowed a whole bunch of money, like from my family. Yeah, my family believed in me, and they didn't know enough about what was going on to say, no, stupid choice, Diana, don't blow that money. So anyway, I went to Florida, filmed this whole infomercial, and they had a whole legit setup and everything. And I was like, I'm going to be huge. This is rolling out nationwide. Everybody's going to know about D2B Fit. My DVD was called Fitness Deadlines, which I'm like is actually a horrible name for a DVD.
The time it seemed right.
The time it seemed right. And it was all this huge thing, spent all this money, and it went out for the first time nationwide, this infomercial, and I think I sold 10 DVDs. Ooh. And I was crushed. I was devastated.
Thousands invested in 10 DVDs.
Thousands and thousands of dollars. And I was just so bummed and so crushed that this wasn't going to work. But I also am like a fighter, and I'm like, no, something's got to work. And so that was kind of happening at the time that I met you, and all of that had already gone down, and I kind of didn't know what to do with this thing that I had because I really wanted to help people, but I didn't even know how to reach people with this message. Yeah. And when I met you, you really started to teach me a lot about this is how you reach people, this is how you connect with people and communicate with people. And because that business was started with another guy, It was like, well, I ain't doing that anymore. That ain't gonna work. So it would close down. Destined to be Fit, which I ended up, when I moved to Kansas City, had a ton of debt. That's like a whole nother story of how I worked my way through that. Did not file for bankruptcy, busted my tail to pay off every single penny of that debt. But when with what you had with Hitch Fit, I'm actually really glad I had all of that. All of that happened for a reason, because I think it actually helped us with Hitch Fit not to jump into some things that we weren't ready for. Because I remember someone early on approaching us being like, oh, you guys should do an infomercial. And I was like, nope.
Yeah.
Nope.
And I had done a couple infomercials up to that point within the industry, but it was for their product.
Yes.
And so to bring your product in, I got to kind of see the behind the scenes, and it was actually a pretty successful product. But I was like, how do we do this in Hitch Fit world? But the fact that you had kind of done something similar, it was different, but something similar, and tried it and then had an experience, you're like, absolutely not.
I was like, no, we ain't
I'm
doing
like,
that.
hey, I'm game for that. So,
Yeah, it was just funny just having, I don't think I share that's literally what I had come out of I had this idea, I wanted to help people, and I tried something that just didn't work. And then when we met and you explained what you were trying to do, it was like, oh, wait, I think this is a better idea.
Yeah. And how it even came apart. So one of my best friends, a guy named Adam, he had kind of put some fire under me. Like, you continue working at these different gyms. You have this really amazing platform on MySpace that you're utilizing. Like, he kind of put a little bit of fire under me, but I didn't have any money.
Yeah.
Like, and you're struggling at that point with this like passion and this idea, but you're like, where am I going to get this money and everything else? And my roommate at the time came in and helped a little bit too. He was kind of a business guy, and Adam gave me like a little bit of seed money and was like, I believe in you, dude. And gave me that initial little seed. And I was like, I'm going to invest this properly.
Yeah.
And then that ended up, I mean, it's crazy. I was living in a little attic.
Yeah.
I was living in a little attic, and I had nothing. And I'm up there on my computer all day long, just grinding away, building relationships, understanding the power of relationship capital, and really trying to figure out social media marketing before you could figure it out.
Yeah.
And MySpace fortunately had amazing algorithms, and so I could literally, what we call now is, I could spam them all day long if they were on my friends list through bulletins. And so, I mean, I had automated things going out like constantly, and like you had to know who I was if you were on my thing. But it was success stories, and I kind of had this flow of like, I would put success stories out which showed, and I was able to showcase them. And then I was doing fitness modeling at the same time, so I was like showing magazine stuff and just really trying to build this perception, even though I had no money, and people would have thought that you were like uber successful.
Oh, no.
And it's kind of the, you look at it now, but it's kind of like the fake it before you make it type deal. But I was making it as far as accolades.
Yes.
But financially it wasn't profitable.
No.
And then we created the business, and once that was in place, that's why it really exploded the way it did.
Mm-hmm.
God came in and touched it for sure, but like we had built a large network. And so once the business was out there, it was bigger than just you and I. It was Hitch Fit. It was a brand. And so it just exploded. It exploded online.
Yeah. And it was just interesting how that all came to be, because you taught me really how to use MySpace as a tool, because I hadn't really been thinking about it in that way, and you kind of taught me the system that you were doing. And then, like I said, I mean, that's the thing, is like, if anybody thought that we got together because somebody had some money, that was not, not the case.
I had debt too.
I was living with my sister, and when I knew I was going to move to Kansas City, I was personal training, but I was just working with a very few people in their homes, and that was like and I had these you get magnets that you can put on the side of your car, so I had these destined to be fit magnets. Big magnets with like my name and my phone number, and that was I actually got clients because of that. But I was just working with a few families, one family that I
You put your arm up on the steering wheel and show your tricep, and girls are like, "Who is that?"
Whoa! No, I literally got clients at like the gas station that were wonderful people.
That's awesome.
Anyway, I can't remember. I was like, I got sidetracked with the need to be fit magnets.
Yeah.
But when I moved to Kansas City, it was like, he lived in an attic.
I was like, I have a lot to offer.
It wasn't like, oh, hey, he's a successful guy. Like, it was like,
I was like, okay,
and I have nothing.
This is my living quarters.
Let's do it. But I had to sell my car. Yeah. I sold my car, I think, for $4,000, and because I didn't have any money, and so I had to figure out how to get myself to Kansas City. So I sold my car so that I would have enough money and I got a rental van, and you flew to Kansas City so that you could drive.
San Antonio.
You flew to San Antonio and drove up with me, and that was how I got there. And then I had to just figure out how to get clients. And there was a room the attic had it was an attic that had like 2 rooms.
Little rooms.
And then we had our roommate who was in the downstairs, and it was like, yeah, live in the attic. And I was like, okay. And the gym was walking distance. So I just started getting clients. But it was just so funny how it all started. Like Hitch Fit, the where it started was just that attic with really nothing but that dream and that idea that you had. And then, and I had like the same heart. I just wasn't doing things really. There was intention
to it.
There was an intention to it.
Because once I understood it and saw it, I was like, oh my gosh. And I remember feeling like so excited because I was like, okay, how do I promote this without someone copying me too quick and doing it better?
Yeah.
And because when you're a pioneer in something, you got to do it. It's like I always said, Facebook came and took over MySpace because they did it better than MySpace did at the time. And so that it was the same thing with, it was like, hey, and then people started seeing it and how much it was blowing up. And it was like every day, almost a new transformation was coming out. And people were like, what in the world?
Yeah.
And I had just taken what I saw with Bill Phillips. I didn't know his program, but I knew how to transform people's bodies and lives. And I was like, I'm going to figure out how, and I was addicted to seeing people transform.
Yeah.
Because of the impact, just like you were, the impact it had on our own lives. And I was like, Lord, I'm going to try to touch as many lives as possible and just continue giving me more people. And he did. And a lot of them over the years. I mean, we're over 20,000 clients, 82 countries, over 750,000 pounds. I mean, it's crazy to even think of it from starting in that attic.
Well, it is crazy when we think of the attic days, and we had, like I said, there was a book, and you had this idea for a book. So that was the first thing that I worked on when I moved to Kansas City. I would just sit there and work on writing the book. That was and it was a literal, now it's an ebook. We still actually send that book when we have online clients, but it was literally a hard copy book. And then we had a DVD.
Yeah, DVD.
We did DVD that had all the exercise demonstrations. So when people signed up for an online personal training plan, we shipped them a hard copy book and a hard copy DVD.
Yeah.
And they would have to watch the DVD for the exercise
there
demonstrations.
Apps in the same way as it is now. I mean, you think P90X days.
Yeah.
And Beachbody, they were doing DVD. So I was
world.
like, that's what it was. And I remember just the pictures of us going to we became really good friends with the ladies at the post office, and I'd have 50 DVDs that would be going out that week or something, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, and she's like, man, you guys are transforming so many people's lives.
So crazy. Cool. Yeah. And we still have some hard copies of those, but it is funny how we had to literally just go to the post office to mail stuff out every time that we had a new client. But the heart of it was always transformation. And I think that's what I just want to shift to a little bit of why was transformation? And we've already shared a little bit as far as for me, it was because of my transformation journey. I had been on a place in an unhealthy place where I didn't feel well. So I wanted other people to experience what I experienced. I wanted people to gain that confidence. And it really was the same with you. And in the systems that we had worked in before in gyms, it was never about transformation. Yeah. And that's why we wanted to do something new and something different with Hitch Fit, that really the heart of it was about transforming the person. Every system we'd ever been in, I worked at 2 different gyms, and it was always about sell. You would walk in and be like, how many sessions did you sell to your client? Well, I sold them 30 last week. Well, tell them we're having a sale and sell them 30 more. And I'm like, well, I literally just sold them 30 last week. Yeah. So it was always about sales. That was literally the entire focus of that corporate environment, which is why I didn't last in corporate environment very long. But I actually didn't like that. It was never about the person. It was never about if they were actually making progress. It was never about if they were transforming or if they were making healthy changes or building a lifestyle. It was always about sales. And you had experienced that too. And that was why we really were we got to do something different.
Yeah, and one thing that I'll always say is we always have stayed true to the purpose of what the mission has always been with Hitch Fit.
Yeah.
It's always been to transform as many people's lives as possible with a sustainable lifestyle type of thing. We didn't get into the quick fixes and do this diet and this diet and this workout and this workout. We always looked at the longevity and success long term, not just, hey, let's get 50 pounds off of them and we can do it by doing no carbs or
Right.
this or that.
Yeah.
And we've always stayed true to that. We've stayed in our lane and tried to excel in the lane that we have been as full as possible. And I got to tell the story because it's such a powerful story about when I got the call and we were living in the attic and I
Yeah.
had nothing. We had nothing. We had just started.
Yeah.
And so there were millions on the table potentially and a lot of fame and everything else that comes with it. And I had gotten called from The Biggest Loser, which was a very popular weight
huge.
loss show at
Biggest
that
Loser
point.
was
It was
huge.
one of the biggest shows in
Yeah.
the nation at that point. And I'm talking to one of the producers or the casting people, and they're like, man, we're watching you on MySpace and everything. Like, you are phenomenal. We really, we would love to have you a part of this show. Diana is sitting next to me, and I just explained to them for about 30 minutes or 45 minutes why I couldn't be a trainer on their show, because I didn't believe in the philosophies. Like, I knew what they were doing without being in the show. I knew because of how much they were losing and how quickly they were losing.
Yeah.
And I just remember in my mind, I'm like, all these people are set up for absolute disaster later on.
Yeah.
Come to find out many years later, it got exposed. We actually met one of the girls that was on the show. We were able to kind of see everything that we were knowing really come to fruition. And it was one of the best choices. They actually called me twice.
Yeah.
They called me another time, and Diana started crying, and a lot of people are like, "Whoa, she crying because she said no?" And I said, "No, she was crying because I said because I said no."
Yeah.
And ultimately it was the best decision. We could have went for quick money and fame, and we didn't. We stayed true to what we foundationally believed in, and that was important.
And just to go a little bit more into, like, we were really solid, passionate. Like, with Hitch Fit, it was always about the people first, and we always felt like if we put people first and we put their success first, then whatever, the financial things, all of those other things are going to come later. And I remember being up in the attic, and I think it was the second call with them, actually, because they had reached out. And then I remember you were kind of getting a little bit frustrated because the lady was like, you were like, I don't think I'm a good fit, because if I do this, they're not going to be losing 10 pounds a week. Like, that's not our system. Like, we don't believe that, because we don't believe in that system, because it's not going to be sustainable for them. They're going to be gaining all of the weight back. And for me, it was just, I was emotional because I was very proud of the integrity that you showed in that moment. And it wasn't even well, should we compromise? Well, maybe this could be a huge opportunity. It really was, you were like solid, like, nope, we're sticking with what we're doing here. And we really held true. And that was, I think that was just really evidence. Like, you kind of know, you know in your heart the things that you're like, this is what I want to be integral about. But I think until it's put to the test, you don't know how solid you're going to be able to stand on that ground. And it was for me evidence of watching you stand very firm. There wasn't a moment of doubt. There wasn't a moment of maybe we could compromise a little bit. It was such a firm, like, no, this is what I believe in, and this is what I stand for, and this is what I'm sticking with. And I get that the world is going to run after these massive fast weight losses, and that it's going to seem appealing, but I understand, and you understood, that the long term of that was not good for people. And so it was a really powerful time. I was very proud of you. I was crying because I was proud, and I was just proud of the integrity and standing firm in the integrity of what Hitch Fit was and what the vision for it was. And I've all these years later, I believe we made the right choice. Sure, that could have,
There's no question about it.
Could have been on national TV and done cool stuff, but that wasn't the Lord's path for us. And I think this path has been, just what was the one that was right for us.
Well, we're not on that, but we're on a few things. We're on an amazing podcast that we love to be a part of. She's right though. I wouldn't take any of it back. All of it happened the way I can't imagine making the choice of saying yes to that and being a hypocrite and sleeping at night properly.
Yeah.
Knowing that I was setting these people up for failure.
Yeah.
And that's the hard part. It's like these people needed a lot of help.
Yeah.
They needed, but when you're in a controlled environment like that, it was just there was no way. And then they go back to real life. That you're setting them up for failure.
And it was actually hard to be.
It's a great show, but if you know what you were watching, it was also hard to watch.
To be starting Hitch Fit in that time when people were seeing that on TV, but we were like, you're probably only going to lose 1 or 2 pounds. Like it was a challenging season for us of like just trying to wrap people's head around what's actually going to last. But I'm really glad we stayed true to that message. But as we can kind of wrap up this conversation a little bit, but what would you say, just be thinking, what would be a takeaway for you from that season of time for us?
Oh, man, I think the first one that I'm just coming to my mind is like not having the fear to not follow a dream or a purpose in your life. Like I got that feeling of like, I want to do something, but it's like no one else is doing it. Think of what people will think. It's going to fail. Like just not having the fear of failure. Yeah. You're going to fail. You're going to fail from time to time. Yeah. But it's knowing that I'm going to get up and I'm going to continue going. And that for me was a really big moment of just like pushing through no matter what.
Yeah, and I would say probably mine is right in alignment with that of just not having that fear of failure, of chasing after a dream, and understanding that you are like failure is part of the process, and you can look at it as like I can look at Destined to Be Fit and I can think that was a massive failure, or I can look at it as something that really helped me learn and grow so that I could make better choices for the future, and that's how I've always chosen to look at it. So I was never afraid to continue stepping into new things just because this other thing failed. Because ultimately that other thing did end up leading me to you and to Hitch Fit and to everything that we're doing now. So I'll never regret jumping in and doing those things and trying things that were big and scary and didn't really work out. But God can use all things. He can work all things together for good. And I believe that that's what he did.
Some of the things that we make the biggest mistakes on are the opportunities that we get and gain the most wisdom out of.
Yeah.
And I always tell people from a mindset standpoint, there is a what if mindset or an even if mindset. A what if mindset is based off of fear. It's like, what if that happens? What if the bear is in the woods and you don't go for the hike because of the bear? And then it's like, even if. Well, if there's a bear in the woods, then you better have your bear spray. You better be faster than the rest of the group or whatever it may be. Yeah. And that's kind of how you start approaching life. It's like, even if I fail, even if, that's all right. I'm going to learn something. I'm going to keep pressing forward. So that mindset, I would really encourage you guys to think about too.
Yeah. So thank you guys for tuning in. I say a couple of takeaways that maybe you could take away from this is just that thought of maybe there's something that you need to step into, and maybe you've been afraid of that fear of failure, but maybe it is, if the Lord's calling you into something, sometimes just step in, and it's okay if you make mistakes, and it's okay if you mess up, and it's okay if it fails, because there's going to still be lessons in those things. But I think being able to jump in and with that even if attitude instead of the what if, that would be one big takeaway from me.
Number 2, just transformation.
Yeah.
Transformation is life. It's not just a short period of time. It's good to have those short-term goals, but think about a sustainable lifestyle that will hit and impact all facets of your life. And its transformation is lifetime to live a full and long life.
And I think the third takeaway that I would have for you guys is just around the idea of not compromising. Like when there is something that is like really solid for you, something that you want to stand on integrity, like don't compromise. You don't have to. You don't have to compromise on the things that are really the most important foundational things for you. And I think we've learned that lesson really well over the last couple almost decades together.
Absolutely. So guys, thank you guys so much for watching. Make sure to comment, share, and like. Anything that you guys need from us, make sure to comment below. We would love to help. All right, guys, next time on A Few Things.